And I looked at her and was like, Ma, the fuck are you doing? And she goes, oh, did I do it again?
What is up, guys? Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 3 of Pour the Tea with Tis and Nate. We have a very special guest with us today. Tis here introduce our special guest. I love her.
So this is Micheala. She's a dear friend of mine. We actually met almost a year ago now, right at the start of COVID. And we've become very great mates ever since.
So, Micheala, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
And let's just get to know a little bit about you. Tell us, like, where you grew up and...
So, I actually grew up here in mid-Missouri for most of my life. And then I went to Coastal Carolina for undergrad. And I'm finishing up my veterinary degree here at the University of Missouri.
So you and I actually met in kind of funny circumstances. Like I mentioned, we met at the beginning of COVID, and we've kind of known each other for the better part of this last year.
Mm-hmm.
But before this last year, obviously you were in St. Kitts. Can you tell us a little bit about being out of the country at the start of COVID?
So, when I was coming back from St. Kitts, so when I had gotten back, it wasn't really a big topic. So, St. Kitts and Nevis, they're currently completely COVID-free. I think they only had maybe 3 to 5 reported cases when it first started. So that wasn't really a big thing that we were even discussing, but we also were like taking finals towards the end of the year. So it was one of those things where you get back and you're like, holy shit, what is going on here? And then before I actually moved here and before we met, my partner and I both got really ill. So we didn't know what it was. We thought it was the flu. We went to the doctor, both got tested for every strains of the flu, which that's very uncomfortable for anybody that's curious. But it all came back negative. And that was really before I think like the media got wind of COVID being recognized in the States. So that was kind of before, and then I was already back in the States when COVID had kind of already been like, I guess on its uprising kind of. So I was already here when COVID was here.
So going throughout this year, Micheala, and dealing with COVID and potentially even having had COVID, what has that been like for you? What has that been like for your partner and for your friends?
Being a vet student, we're kind of already used to social distancing, except for when we're working with animals. And so a lot of the time we're bouncing in and out of the OR, so we already have masks on. So that was kind of a really easy adjustment for me at the time. But once school moved to, doing clinical year, you have to have your hands on. You have to learn how to be a doctor and interact with people, get better with handling, your patients. It's very hard and very difficult to do that online. So that was kind of a huge adjustment to where you're in the clinic every day, you're seeing people, to then you're just secluded in your little home.
Yeah.
And so you're doing everything virtually on Zoom, everything like that, which is very weird because you're still kind of getting interaction, but nothing at all because you're still home alone and you're just seeing people in a box. So it's been very interesting. And for me, I think when the university especially was like, hey, don't leave anywhere, kind of stick around because we don't know our game plan, we don't know our actions going forward. My partner lives in South Carolina with some of my family, and it was really hard not to just get in my car and go home because that's when, different states were like, oh, you can't leave. Some counties were like, once you're here, you can't. If you leave here, you can't come back. So different states kind of had their own different things going on. So I didn't want to get trapped in a state where I didn't know anybody. I didn't want to get on a plane. So, I mean, to be honest, like it took a really big toll, like being here and not being at home. Luckily for her, they took precautions and stuff. And so she had job security still, which was important for us and our relationship and everything. But yeah, no, it was hard. It still is hard trying to like adjust to like this is our normal now.
Yeah.
So I know you and your partner have been engaged for several years now.
2,
and
yes.
You're starting to the point that you're like planning the wedding, you're dress shopping, things of that nature. And I know obviously this year has been crazy for a lot of people, having to postpone their marriages, their weddings, things of that nature. How has wedding planning been with all of this craziness?
So we were really gung-ho about it for a while. And I mean, I think every couple who plans to get married, if that's what you want to do, that's great. If you don't, that's great too. But for us, we want to get married. And, we got really gung-ho on yes, this is what we want. We started putting plans in motion, and then just kind of outside stressors of seeing stuff on like social media and people that we knew who were booking their venues and stuff just getting cancelled, and they don't get all this money back. And then there's also that big stress of, my partner and I, she has family that are older. I have family that are immunocompromised. And then you just kind of got to weigh out like your plus and minuses. Like, do we really want to have a day where we're celebrating, our love, our relationship in front of our family, and then potentially like her, myself, anyone else there could be, an asymptomatic carrier, and then we get one of our loved ones sick.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, like right now, we both have dresses. We both have our like wedding bands. Right now, like nothing is more important than keeping our family safe, and we'll get married at the right time. Whether it be at the courthouse, having a big day, having a big party, it'll happen when it's supposed to happen. And I'm completely okay with that.
I love that. And I appreciate you expressing that you are in a relationship and in a partnership with another woman. A lot of what we have been talking about on the show lately has been about coming out and coming to terms with sexuality and being a part of the LGBTQ community. Do you mind telling us a little bit about your coming out story and what that was like and how your family, how your friends took it?
I knew I was gay at a very young age. I think I was just kind of suppressing it like every person in the LGBTQ community kind of does. You kind of feel a little bit different. And luckily for me, like my older cousin, he came out first. So he kind of set the stage for like my family, and it was no big deal. But for me, I was kind of harboring it in for a while, and I made it till about 20. And I was like, well, girl, you gay.
Ooh.
Like, is what it is. I did play college softball, so there's stereotype. There you go. I had just went on a date with a guy. It didn't work out. Then I met this really gorgeous girl, and I go, okay, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go on a date. So my mom and I were out shopping, and she goes, oh, do you got any plans this weekend? I'm also a really shy liar, so I can't lie to my mom. And so I go, yeah, I've got a date this weekend. She goes, oh, tell me all about it. What does he do? Does he play sports? And I'm like, well, she's pretty great. I mean, she's an art major.
Oh, wow.
And I'll never forget, because also we were like a Walmart too. And so my mom was like going through like the $5 bin of movies because she loves old cheesy horror movies. So she's got like 4 of them in her hand. She like looks at them. She stops. She looks at me and she goes, she drops everything that like she's been searching through this bin for like a good 15 minutes. And she goes, we gotta go out to the car. I was like, is she gonna beat my ass in this parking lot right now? Like, what is gonna go on? And like, we didn't speak, and so like at that point, like my heart's pumping. I'm like, oh my god, I'm dead. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And then so we sit in the truck, and my mom left her phone in the car, and so she turns on the car. I'm like, is she just gonna take me home? And like, did she got my grave already buried? Like, what's going on?
Oh my god.
Like, my mom's pretty hardcore, so I was kind of worried. And then she like called my stepfather at the time, and she goes, hey. And he goes, hey babe, what's up? She goes, you know that big lot of stuff that I have in our Amazon cart? He goes, and he chuckled, and he said, yeah. And she goes, well, you have to buy it for me now, bitch. And hung up. And I was so shocked. I reacted kind of like how you are right now. Completely shocked. I had no idea. And she looked at me, and she like grabbed my hand. She goes, babe, it's okay. Like, I love you. I've been betting on you since you were like 11. And I said, well, how?
Wow.
And I looked at her and I said, well, how did you know? And she goes, well, your granny called me when you were quite young, and she realized that something was off with you when you were marrying 2 Barbie dolls and 2 Ken dolls, and you didn't think anything of it.
Of course.
So, yeah, my mom is a freaking rock star. And I think, honestly, she's more critical of women than she is of men that I brought home.
Oh.
So, I know my mom's favorite joke to like play on anybody that I've ever dated brought home. She's done it to my fiance a couple of times, like back earlier when my mom was like a huge fan of her. I mean, she still is, but my mom randomly forgets people's names. But now she does it because now that she knows it's funny and it makes people uncomfortable. So for like the first little bit, like my partner's name is Erica. And so Erica like walked in and we've been dating probably like 7 months at this point. And mom goes, "Oh, hey Trevor, how you doing?" And Erica looked at me and I looked at her and was like, "Ma, the fuck are you doing?" And she goes, "Oh, did I do it again?" And then she just like kept watching television like it was no big deal.
And now you were telling us a story, or your coming out story to some coworkers. How did that go?
Okay, so before I got into veterinary school, I worked at a vet hospital, and so the way that we would do it at my particular job was we also had a boarding facility. So when I first got back into the area, I was doing half and half. So I'd split time between the hospital and the kennel. Being LGBTQ and just being me, I've been more like, I guess just I get along better with like guys, especially when they're athletic, and I'm just like, okay, we can talk about sports. And so I had a guy coworker who was a little younger than I was, but he played college baseball and like I played softball, so like we really got to chat about a lot of sports, and so everybody thought they're fucking.
And you weren't.
No. And he had a girlfriend at the time, and so did I. And so no one knew this. So what happened was my boss, she made like this whole like fraternization policy that everyone had to sign. And when you signed it, they would ask you point blank, like, "Are you sleeping with so-and-so?" It was like, I think they were trying to like, I think they knew who it was, but I think they wanted to kind of narrow it out because there was like job performances that were being hampered by, you know, whatever they're doing. So I was like, okay, whatever. So I got like a page to come up to the front. And so I remember going up to our front lobby and it was completely empty because we were almost closed. And so it's like my main boss, the manager, and like the assistant manager, and they're all looking at me and they're like, "Hey, we need you to sign this. Do you know where you're signing it?" And I said, "Well, I've heard the rumor that like Jared and I are fucking, but like you guys know that I'm gay, right? Like I have a girlfriend, he has a girlfriend, like it doesn't matter. So like, surprise."
I don't think I've ever had to come out at work as much as people just like naturally just assume because of my personality. I think I have to more so tell people like, "Oh, I'm pansexual, like I date like whoever, I don't care what your gender is," type of deal. People are automatically like, "Oh, this boy's gay." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, yeah, sure."
I would say, I think when you and I first met, I heard your voice and I was like, not straight, that's for sure. And then, like, I didn't want to just straight up ask you or anything of that nature. And then I think that I had come up, I was purchasing something, and my dead name came up. Yeah. And so you used the pronouns associated with that name. Yes. And so I just had to quickly, like, briefly explain, you know, "Hey, I haven't changed my name in the system yet. My name is Tissia, she, her." And we've been friends ever since. So we've heard about your partner, Erica. How did you meet her?
That's a good story. So I was dating my ex at the time. So it was the ex right before Erica. So I was dating my ex, and so my mom celebrates Halloween. It's a very big deal in our family. She's got like Jack the Pumpkin King up. So my mom every year, besides this year, obviously because COVID, throws big Halloween parties with all of our friends and family. She's having a big costume party, and so obviously me and my ex, we were invited. Little did I know, at the time, my family absolutely hated my ex. So we got to the party, and I had a couple of like my best friends there too that I worked with for several years, went to college with. And everybody was kind of like whispering about the party, like, "Oh, is so and so here?" And I didn't know who this girl was, but my mom had kind of mentioned this girl's name repeatedly. I was like, "Oh, you know, Ma, fuck off. Like, I'm in a relationship. It's terrible. Like, let me come to the end of it on my own terms." And my mom was like, "Yeah, whatever. She's a sneaky bitch. She's a very sneaky bitch." But I love her. So I was pretty intoxicated because we fought the entire way to the party. And as we got there, she just kind of made her, you know, horribleness known and pissed off like a lot of people there. And I was just drinking because I was like, this is the first time that like we had lived in another state at the time, so we just moved back. I hadn't seen everybody. So I was drinking pretty heavily, and then I kind of stumbled inside. I'm like, eating snacks, very uncute like. And then I see like these 3 girls walk in, and they're like the 3 blind mice. And then I see Erica, and I'm like, oh damn, she cute. I'm like, who's that? And my mom comes up with like this smug grin. She goes, oh hey, I want to introduce you to someone. And so I introduced myself, like I hugged her 2 friends, because I had met them previously. And then she just kind of like looked at me, but she had sunglasses on, so I was like, okay, whatever, and she was really quiet, because she's pretty introverted. Everybody was like smirking, because we kind of hit it off, but like she wasn't really talking. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I was drunk enough not to really care, but I was like, damn, she's really beautiful. But also, your ex is there, so don't cross the line. Like, I've never done that in my relationship, but I could admire a beautiful specimen.
So your at the time girlfriend's there.
Yeah.
With your future girlfriend that your mom seemed to be trying to set you up with.
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
the entire party was trying to set us up. So then, like, fast forward, like probably like an hour and a half later, everybody's outside. We're playing a big game of flip pong or flip cup. That's it, flip cup. And so my ex is at the other side of the table doing whatever, because she said she's the champ of flip cup, whatever. And then so Erica lines up across from me, and so, not to brag, but I'm pretty good at flip cup. And so we were playing, and then like she couldn't like quite get the hang of it, and I like was like, hey, do you like want some tricks of like what I do? Because she was like using her whole hand to like slap this cup. I was like,
me as fuck.
I was like, are you trying to do like a damn rocket launch? Like, what's going on? And so I went over and like taught her my tricks. And then probably about a month, like we started off as friends, you know, like she'd also went through a really bad breakup with her ex. And then I ended my relationship because it was really unhealthy. She also cheated on me. So we parted ways. And probably 2 days after I was single, Erica texted me and was like, hey, do you want to go to dinner? And then we've been together ever since. But to find out, this is important, to find out 2 years into our relationship, before I'd fucking proposed to her, she knew how to play flip cup all along.
She's a ringer. Like, I've played against this gal.
She boosted me up by thinking, oh no, like I haven't really played that much. She's phenomenal at flip cup.
I'm feeling shocked and betrayed. She did that just to get close to you.
And she dropped it on me on like a date night, and I go, I feel like our entire relationship has been a lie. A lie, because you were a freaking ace in flip cup.
I love that. We would love for you to tell us the story about your engagement.
Yes.
Okay, so when I proposed, it was over 2 years now. So I was still like down the island, so we get to come home about every, I'm gonna say like 4 months. We get like we get like 2 weeks off, and then for Christmas period we get like 3.5 weeks off. So I was doing it like on our fall break, since we get 3 semesters. And so in like the time that I was home before, I told my mom, like, this is the girl I want to spend the rest of my life with. I want to marry her. She goes, okay, awesome. What do we need to do? And so then I like called her parents, asked for their permission. They were crying. I was also very nervous, and also I had to like leave the restaurant that I was in with, you know, Erica and her friends to go make this phone call because they had called me back. And they said yes, they were really excited. And then the trip back home before I had proposed, I designed a ring, got it all ready. My mom picked it up for me, sent me pictures. It turned out stunning, exactly how I wanted it. And then I started sending messages to people throughout this entire time, like to her family, to her 2 sisters. Hey, I'm going to propose. I would really like it if you guys could come down. Like, I'll send you gas money, I'll buy your plane tickets, whatever. But like, I really would like you guys to be there, because her and I had conversations before. Like, she never wanted to get married, but now that we want to get married, you know, I wanted it to be memorable for her. And I only plan on proposing once because it's stressful as hell. And so fast forward to August when I did propose. Her family had texted me the night before that they had gotten in. They stayed at a hotel just to make sure that, because Erica and I, we were always at my mom's house, like, hang out with her and everything. So we didn't want any overlap to happen for her to be, like, suspicious. So then the day of the proposal, Erica had to work, and I fooled her by saying, hey, we're gonna have a really good date night to celebrate our anniversary. That's in November, because I'm always gone during November whenever I'm in school. And she didn't think anything of it, so it's pretty habit of like us splitting ways, and you know, instead of me getting ready at our apartment, I'll go over to my mom's and I'll go pick her up, get flowers, everything. So I made dinner reservations for like 15 people. She did not know about that. I made like a cute little picnic thing, and pretty old school, so I looked up like the different meanings of every like anniversary that you're supposed to spend, or the gift that you're supposed to spend. So like year one is normally paper, and I know it's like wedding-ish, but like her and I are pretty like standard traditional old school couples. So so I got some paper, and then I said the fine china that we're gonna do for our year 2 anniversary was gonna be a really nice dinner. So meanwhile, I get ready, her entire family and my family's at my house. We're like detailing. I proposed to her on the beach, so they're gonna hide behind like this little like walk-in dock thing that you can't see from the parking lot, but good view of where I was going to propose. So I made her like her favorite little spread of appetizer dishes and mimosas, because that was the first drink we had at the beach. And then so we were eating them, and I said, hey, you know, for year 1, since we didn't get to spend it together, I got this thing called like wishing paper. It's like tissue paper, and you're supposed to like write your wish down, and then you roll it up and you light it on fire, and it's supposed to like go into the air and then it just disintegrates.
That's really cute.
So she wrote down a novel, and I just wrote, say yes. And she didn't know that. And the beach is really windy, and so like I lit on fire and then almost caught on her, and I was like, fuck me, why isn't this not like going right? Because we both were dressed nice. She was in her dress, I was in like this really nice like long panted jumpsuit or whatever. And I said, hey babe, what'd you wish for? And she's telling me like a list of things. It was like a novel, and I'm like nodding, and meanwhile like my family, I see their heads pop up. I'm like, get the fuck down.
Yes.
And they're texting me like, yo, would you hurry up because we're uncomfortable? And I said, don't rush the process. And then I looked at her because I'm like starting to pack up things. So I said, hey, you know, we're gonna be late to dinner, even though I kind of scheduled like 45 minutes before we had to be there. And I looked at her as I was picking up stuff, and I said, hey, do you want to know what I wish for? And she said, well, yeah, of course. And she's like folding a blanket and stuff. And then I had the ring in my pocket the entire time. And then so I did drop an actual like glass in the sand, so I was picking it up. And I reached into my pocket, and I just said, well, my wish is for you to marry me. And she bawled, and I was crying because I was so nervous. And then she looked at me, she goes, are you serious? I said, yeah, will you marry me? And she just kept nodding, and her face turned as red as her hair, which was adorable, and she had on like this blush color dress. And so then after, you know, I slid the ring on her finger, she was crying, I was crying, and I said, hey, and she goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And I said, hey, I love you. She said, I love you too. And I said, right now, I know that you're like super shocked, but you need to turn around right now. And she turned around, she saw like her parents and her 2 sisters.
Oh my god.
And, like, my family. And instantly like fell in the sand, was super emotional, and like it was probably
Oh my god.
the best way that it could have happened. And I was so happy, and then we went to dinner, and we've been going on an upward trend ever since. Like it, I mean, I won't lie, like, you know, this year has definitely been hard, but like we've never once chosen to give up on one another, and I think that speaks volumes. But yeah, no, I'm more in love with her now than I was that day that I proposed to her on the beach.
That is amazing.
Yes.
Before we go, I do want to talk about mental health, which is something that you have expressed to us on the show that you would like to discuss. You brought to our attention a really awesome organization called I Don't Mind. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about them?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually the t-shirt that I'm wearing, and I have a little bracelet that I wear every single day that just says I Don't Mind. So it's a company that is bringing aware like stigma to mental health. So every time you wear it, it's like opening up a conversation, or anyone who gets familiar, you know, with the entire organization itself is just like, hey, what does your shirt mean? And then so it's kind of a segue to be like, hey, I'm okay with talking about my mental health. So especially in my profession as being a veterinarian, or soon to be veterinarian after graduation. As veterinarians, we have the highest suicide rate here in America for like the last decade, because there are a lot of mental health issues that go unrecognized, and I think that is important not only to fellow, you know, veterinary students, veterinarians, but also to everyone out there who may be struggling mentally. So every time that you purchase or rep their merchandise, they give all their proceeds basically to charities and make it available for people to go out and get the mental help that they need. So I really think that's a super important company. I really like everything that they've done. So that's why I choose to wear their clothing, and even the band at work, just to kind of let everyone know, like, hey, I also struggle. If you guys are struggling too, I don't mind to open up and chat about it, because I think it's important. And I don't think that mental health should have an ugly stigma like what it has. And I'm super open about it. Like, I have depression, anxiety. I've been suffering with it for the past 2.5 years now. Therapy definitely changed my life and made me a better person, not only for myself, for my patients, but also to my family members, friends, and most importantly to me is, you know, to my partner. So being that open and that vulnerable, yes, it's terrifying, but like, I'm living my best life now, and that to me is more important than I think anything else in the world.
And I very much appreciate you mentioning this, because I know in the last, especially most of the last year, you and I, part of the reason we have become super close is because we have kind of leaned on each other a bit in these times. And especially knowing that, like, my family's elsewhere, your family's elsewhere, it's been nice to have someone my age that has had similar experiences that I know that I can talk to. But sometimes it's important to have a professional to talk to, and that's why I Don't Mind is such a massive and important figure. We are not paid by I Don't Mind. We don't have any affiliation with them whatsoever, but that is why it's so important to mention them and to call them out. If you're having trouble, if you need someone to talk to, if you need even just a conversation about how to destigmatize your mental health, go to idon'tmind.com. They have amazing links in there, and if you donate, like Micheala was saying, they go to so many great causes. idon'tmind.com, we'll put the link down below. If you have any questions, feel free to post them in the comments. We'd be happy to answer them there.
Oh, and follow them on Instagram, because every day they have, whether it's articles or posts, they've got like little reminders for you. Also, if you're having like a really bad day, you can go and click on it, or they have links to sometimes like emergency therapy, like hotlines. It's totally free that you can also reach out and do. So their Instagram page literally changed my life whenever I first saw it and first known it. Like, I got to it and it helped me kind of connect and build up the courage to go and actually talk to a therapist. So yeah, definitely on their homepage, on their website, and on their Instagram page. It's incredible.
All right, so now that we've got that going, which is so awesome, thank you so much. We just want to end the show with having a little fun with you and asking some super cool vet questions.
I need a drink for this, don't I?
Oh, you might. Tizia went online and found some really awesome, funny questions that we're going to ask you. And it's about being a vet, because we love animals and so do you. So let's get to these questions and see what the answers that you may have. I do want to say first, although yes, she is going to be a vet here soon, do not take this as like medical advice for your pet, because you need to go see your own personal vet for that. This is just, you know, for fun. We're having a good time, and we thought that would be a great way to end the show.
And much like with anything, we're always going to try to treat everything with as much respect and love as possible. But much like if you needed to speak to your real doctor, please reach out to your real doctor. This is not the place. I promise you, I have no answers. As a pet owner, I have no answers.
I have answers, but legally I do not have a client-patient relationship with you. So please do not... Just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Just don't do it.
Don't.
So, with that being said, quote, "Can you neuter my dog instead of spay her? It's much cheaper."
Okay, I know these are supposed to be funny, but I'm going to answer this scientifically really quick.
Okay.
First off, you can call a spay or neuter the same thing. We will treat you with respect if you use either term. It's fine, or castration is used for both. I know that might blow some people's mind, but I've heard all three. Spaying versus neutering, just because I've done both procedures before. It's more expensive for a spay because you've actually got to go into the abdominal cavity. I know this is not funny whatsoever, sorry. But neutering is like literally you make a small incision, pop, clip, clip, ligate, sew them up, you're done. It takes about maybe 10 minutes.
It's like a vasectomy.
No.
No. Worse.
No, because if you do a vasectomy, then you're still getting testosterone.
You're leaving the testicles there.
Yes, but if you remove the testicles, then there's no extra supply of testosterone. It's never going to be more expensive. And also, you can't spay or neuter when you don't have the equipment. Like, spays you're removing the uterus and the ovaries, and neutering, you're removing the testicles. Can't do it. You can't do it.
Okay.
I can't go to your female dog and remove her testicles because she does not have testicles.
Why does my dog have nipples? He's a dog.
You know, this is funny because there's a really funny video of a client coming in. I know they've made it into a cartoon. Have you guys seen it?
I don't think I have.
It's amazing. But it's like an owner came in. I'm not making fun of anybody, but this is a commonly asked question in our field. Was, they thought it was this mass, and so they shaved it, and it was just the male dog's nipples. And they're like, no, ma'am, male dogs also have nipples. And she goes, well, how is that possible? And it took the nurses being like, does your husband have nipples? And the lady was like, So that's my answer. Is like, guys have nipples too. It's fine. We don't need to remove them. They don't have memory tissue to make them an issue. So yeah, they just have them. I don't.
I just realized I misspoke. He's a boy, not he's a dog. I apologize.
Regardless, we're not going to take off your male dog's nipples. I'm sorry.
But speaking of removal, quote, are there prosthetic testicles
Oh my god!
that you could insert into my dog so he doesn't know that I betrayed him?
I love that.
I mean, yes, there are. They're called nudicles, which I believe Kim Kardashian became very famous for.
Whoa.
They're prosthetic testicles. I don't know if your dog would take it as you didn't betray him, because they're still going to have to go under surgery to take out the real testicles to then implant the fake testicles. So I still think it's like a double whammy of betrayal.
I love that.
I am curious though. So are they similar to like breast implants where they're silicone, or are they something else?
Wait, say that again?
Silicone? Silicone?
I don't know. I've never worked with fake prosthetic testicles before, so I don't know. I don't know many people, at least all the doctors that I've met. They've never worked with them, but we've been asked about them quite a bit. We don't personally carry them in the clinic that I have been working with or have worked at.
So what I'm hearing is we're not rich enough for Kim Kardashian.
We live for that moment.
They're very expensive, those fake testicles.
Quote, and you will appreciate this.
Oh, no.
Why do some dogs bark with an English accent?
What?
Why do some dogs bark with an English accent? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because that's where they're from. A lot of people ask me why I have an Irish accent, and I'm just like, I just do, so why does it matter?
So as a follow-up, this actually came with a secondary question. My cat meows with a southern accent. Is that normal?
Wait, I have a question before I answer your original question. How does a southern meow sound?
Meow?
It sounds like every cat that I've ever interacted with in the South, so I think it's pretty normal.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
They say pets take after their owners, so maybe that's why the dog has an English accent.
The dog is not racist because of me. He's adopted, I promise.
He is adopted.
Well, that is a whole different conversation.
You've met Hop. I'm just throwing it out there.
Hop doesn't like me because I am a black man with a beard.
He didn't bark at you too much today.
When I gave him treats. And on that note, thank you so much for
Thank you,
joining
guys.
us here
Thank
today.
you,
This
guys.
was such a fun time
Yes.
being able to talk to you, getting to know a little bit more about you, being our first guest on our podcast.
Thank you.
So excited. And then, guys, don't forget, make sure that you check out idon'tmind.com and get all that information in our description box below. Do you want to shout out any social media or anything like that? Or is there something where people can find you that you want them to like know about you or anything like that?
So I think after like COVID and everything, I've taken a hiatus from my social media just for my own kind of relaxation, just to get away from the craziness of the world. I'm not probably going to be off of it for very long, but when I do, if I'm allowed to come back, I will give it to you guys later. But as of right now, I'm taking a break because I just want to clear all the background noise.
I like that.
That makes sense.
Well, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.